or repulsed, then one should not do or say anything, but keep still like a bump on a log. This is sort of, the next few verses really talk about having some equanimity and balance so that we're not thrown off by the vicissitudes of life, or what they call the 8 worldly thoughts. The 8 worldly thoughts are like getting really high when you feel good, but getting really low when you don't feel good. Or getting really high when people like you, and getting really low when people don't like you. Getting really high when you're well known, and getting really low when people don't know you. Getting really high when you're praised, and getting really low when you're criticized. This is the vicissitudes of life, where someone seems to like you and you think they're going to like you forever, and you're so high and you sort of over-exaggerate it, you know. And someone doesn't seem to like you in this moment, and you think, oh my God, nobody's ever going to like me again, or they're never going to like me forever, and you just get totally depressed, you know. Just allowing yourself to get thrown like the vicissitudes of life, like a huge emotional roller coaster. For those of us that are on an emotional roller coaster, we could study the 8 worldly thoughts and find nice ways to become more equanimous in the vicissitudes of life, recognizing impermanence and that things change. When the mind becomes arrogant, contemptuous, full of pride and conceit, scornful, superior, duplicitous, or deceitful, when it looks as though it's going to exalt itself, it is your ego. When it looks as though it's going to exalt itself or disrespect someone else, when it becomes abusive and agitated, one should just keep still like a bump on a log when the don't get on the train. The train usually also ends up at you yelling at someone or calling them up or feeling really... By the time you have justified yourself on the train, you know Pema Chodron, she says it's the ego's job to be outraged. When you are outraged, you know that the ego has fully taken over, where it's just, I see it like a little cartoon character standing there like, how dare you? You never, you always. When you start using those 2 words, you know, the red alert button has been pushed. You never say thank you. You always leave the dishes for me. Really, have they never said thank you ever? You know, don't believe that thought, it's not true. You're just building your case. Building your case very, you know, meticulously. Building the case so that at the end of the train you can just go for it. You're totally justified in yelling at them, you know. So be like a bump on a log. Don't get on the train. Or at least if you're on the train, just sit there nicely, get off as soon as you can, get on the train back home again. When the mind longs for acquisitions, honour, fame, or a retinue of followers, wow, Shanti Deva really had our number here. A retinue of followers or admirers, I should then just keep still like a bump on the log. If you're just freaking out that you don't have enough friends on Facebook, freaking out that nobody likes your spaghetti dinner that Mary was talking about the other day, keep still like a bump on a log.
Don't upload more stuff.
Don't upload more spaghetti. Spaghetti is not going to go viral today. And you know, when I was talking yesterday, about finding your Dharma, when you really have found your Dharma, I think you could say that when you really feel that you're in a place where you don't need so much affirmation, you know. It doesn't matter whether people affirm you or not, in a sense, because you know that you're living your truth, you know that you're living authentically, and you don't need other people's affirmation to tell you that you're living authentically. You know what I mean? So I think that it also relates back to, you know, finding your Dharma, doing your Dharma well. When the mind is self-interested and averse to the interests of others, self-interested and doesn't care about other people, or when it just wants to talk out of a desire for an audience, I should then just keep still like a bump on a log. When it is impatient, slothful, paranoid, impudent or gossipy, or when it is bent on self-aggrandizement, I should then keep still like a bump on a log, perceiving the mind to be troubled or uselessly engaged. A strong person should always firmly restrain it through applying the antidote. So here again, just emphasizing the importance of non-action, you know. Sometimes it's good to do nothing. Sometimes it's better to lose the argument and stay peaceful than to win the argument and be continually harassed, you know. So you can think, I want peace more than winning this argument. Sometimes you can let it go. That's mindful non-action. We can agree to disagree. So also doing your Dharma well, or doing your Dharma poorly rather than doing another person's Dharma well, again that verse, can also mean minding your own business. Engaging in disputations, trying to change people's minds religiously, you know, agree to disagree. Sometimes it's better not to mind your own business, not doing other people's Dharma in terms of trying to change their mind about their beliefs and that kind of thing. So mindful non-action.
I've heard that expression, sometimes it's better to be nice than to be right.
Yeah.
The last parts of this class, then we want to leave plenty of time for discussion, as we didn't in the afternoon class, is another aspect of the importance of doing nothing. It's important to take time off. It's in fact mandated in many of the religious traditions. Many of us in the room here grew up in the Western Christian and Jewish tradition, where it's made it to the top 10 actually. 10 Commandments is to keep the Sabbath holy. Means that you take one day off a week and you don't do anything. And we've kind of lost this. I think maybe some of you remember a time where there were days when stores were not open. It's still the case out in the country in Australia where we live. Saturday morning is a big shopping time. Everyone's like crowding the shopping towns, and everything closes at noon on Saturday and stays closed until morning on Monday. They're still honoring the Sabbath. They don't call it that, you know. You don't probably even think of it that way, but that's kind of the same. It's the same practice. It's the same practice of, you know, working. If it was good enough for God, it's good enough for us. Okay? You all know the story of Genesis. In the beginning, God created the heavens and the earth. He worked for 6 days. You know, creating everything took a long time. Six whole days of God time. You know, who knows how long that is. And then what happened in the seventh day? God rested. He took it, you know, swung in the heavenly hammock. Or whatever, you know. He just relaxed. See, it's built in. You see, it's built in very, very deeply, actually, into the Judeo-Christian tradition to take a day off. And I don't know if you've ever known Orthodox Jews, you know, but the Orthodox Jews are like, they really get this, okay? They don't do anything on Sabbath. You see, on Shabbat, they won't even like turn on lights, okay? That's too much work. No, I'm serious. They won't press buttons on elevators, you see? Let alone cooking and cleaning and, you know, checking their emails and stuff like that. So this section here is, you know, to try to show, in the Eastern text also, that there is built into a proper spiritual life knowing when to just relax and do nothing. Cindy and I have been trying this, you know, mostly with success for several years now. To have a day, usually on the weekends for us, it works out best, where we don't do anything. We relax. And that means nowadays taking a digital detox day. You know that term, digital detox? That means turning everything off for a day. Okay, because otherwise you're not really relaxed. Okay? If you're still plugged in, if you're still checking text messages and emails and surfing the internet, that's not relaxation, actually. So I highly recommend it. One day a week, you can survive. Okay, try, you know, and people, I see your faces, okay? Oh, no. No.
Outraged.
Oh, no. See, but there's huge resistance to that. What, I mean, you know, the resistance, the amount of resistance is corresponding to the amount of the addiction. If can't turn it off for 24 hours, then maybe you've got a problem. You know, everyone's good at pointing other fingers at other people on, you know, how bad they are with their addictions. But, you know, as Cindy was saying, we're all addicted to something. And many of us are addicted to the internet. Many of us are addicted to our cell phones, our smartphones, okay? So, in the Guide to the Bodhisattva's Way of Life, the forces deployed to accomplish the goals of all living beings. So that's pretty like big forces here. To accomplish the goals of all, you know, bodhisattva activity. Okay? Our willpower, really wanting to do it. Steadfastness, sticking with it. Joy, being happy all the time. And then the last one, it's mukti in Sanskrit. Mukti means release. Release means relax. Okay? So you restore your, so that's the purpose of the Sabbath, right? You know, the purpose of taking a day off a week, the precondition, you could say, of taking a day off a week is that you've been working hard the other 6 days. You know, God was quite busy in those 6 days, a lot of work creating the universe, the cosmos. And so with the spiritual life too. You know, it presumes that you're working hard on your spiritual life, you know, for 6 days, and then you take a day off. That's, you know, that even for a spiritual life. So if you're a hardcore meditator, you know, you're meditating every day for 6 days, you're a hardcore yogi, if you're a hardcore, you know, student, intellectual student of scripture or something like that, you know, you're working hard 6 days a week, and then you don't do it one day. Have you ever come to a yoga studio and heard somebody say, don't do yoga 1 day a week? Well, no, you did. You just heard that. No, I mean, but it's presuming that you're doing yoga the other 6 days in some form or another, right? And then, you know, in the non-spiritual life, it means that we work hard, we do, you know, what we need to do, we go to our jobs, we check our email, we answer our text messages, blah, 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 for 6 days, and then one day you turn it off. You power it all down. Think you could do it? Try it. Just one day. Just see how it goes. And huge resistance to it, I see it in your faces, but I think you'll find that you will rediscover a peace that you didn't even know you had lost. A peace that you didn't even miss because, you know, it just kind of like happened organically, that it just disappeared in our lives. We just, you know, lost it. So it's there in the Guide to the Bodhisattva's Way of Life. Everyone is happy. This is from Ishtavaka Gita. Everyone is unhappy because they're always exerting themselves. Everyone's unhappy because they're always working all the time. Kind of interesting. And no one knows this. Don't even recognize it. We don't even recognize that the unhappiness that we feel comes from this stress of always having to be busy all the time. With this teaching, a fortunate one obtains emancipation. Okay, I wanted to read you a quote from a very famous Western philosopher, Bertrand Russell. Everyone know, heard of him, actually? I don't know when exactly he wrote this, sometime in the last century. In praise of idleness. You can look it up on the internet. It's posted in PDF on the internet. So one of the greatest of the modern Western philosophers wrote a whole essay in praise of idleness. And just a brief quote from this. This is in support of taking a day off a week and just doing nothing. I want to say, in all seriousness, that a great deal of harm is being done in the modern world by belief in the virtuousness of work. And that the road to happiness and prosperity lies in an organized diminution. I'm having real trouble with diminution. Reduction.
Diminution.
Making small. And prosperity, happiness and prosperity lies in an organized making small, shrinking of work. Okay, whole essay on how we have completely overemphasized the importance of work and underestimated the importance of relaxation in the modern world. And there's good ancient religious validation for this. Like I said, in both Western and Eastern traditions, you can find plenty of examples where the religious texts tell you it's important to rest. It's important to take time to restore yourself. And restoration, means nowadays, means unplugging. Okay? There are statistics. When people go on holiday, what do you suppose is the main activity that they do? Number one activity for people on holiday, okay?
Nothing.
Shopping. Shopping, number one. Okay? Nowadays, we don't turn the cell phones off ever. We don't turn the computer. We take them with us on our holidays. We check our emails throughout our holidays. This is a rather insane way to live. So the recommendation, one day a week, to honor the Sabbath, like it says, to honor a time, honor one day a week and keep it holy, which means that you appreciate life. You rest and appreciate life. Then maybe one weekend a month where you shut everything down and start living what we'll call in the next section here a retreat lifestyle. For many of us, it's going to be very difficult to find the time to do the kind of old school retreats, which last 4 weeks, 6 weeks, 3 months, 3 years, or something like that. So how can we integrate a retreat lifestyle into our ordinary, ongoing day-to-day lives? So the next verses are from the Guide to the Bodhisattva's Way of Life. No, from the Hatha Yoga Way of Life. Which is one of the classic texts of the yogic tradition, for those of you who don't know. The yogi who practices Hatha Yoga should live in a solitary hermitage, located in a place that is an arrow shot away from rocks, fire, and water. Because those are the kinds of things that could fall on your hut. Yeah, or burn it up or something. And in a locale that is peaceful, where there's not like a civil war going on, where supplies are easily obtained, where you can go grocery shopping and stock up on stuff and bring it to the hut, and which is well governed in accordance with religious principles, where they honor, a kind of a spiritual orientation. So, for us, solitary hermitage is a relative term. But it's important if you want to start changing your life in a way that's saner, to find a relatively quiet place to live. And it's just relative. It has to be relative. For most of everyone in the room is living in a big city here. So relatively speaking, I had a long conversation one time with somebody when I was living in Los Angeles, who came to me and he said, "I'm having a very difficult time meditating." So we talked and talked and talked, and finally, it kind of occurred to me, well, where do you live? And he says, well, I live on, right on top of the 405 freeway. For those of you who know LA, it's one of the busiest freeways in the world. And so, why do you do that? It's cheap. Well, yeah, it would be. It's a constant racket of noise. So, if you're living in that's not a conducive type place to live for any kind of peace of mind. So, relatively speaking, you find a relatively quiet place to live, a place that isn't dangerous. That's the kind of next thing. Which means, nowadays it means in a neighborhood where you're not worried about getting robbed all the time, or having broken in. While you're sitting in meditation and somebody like a crack addict breaks into your house. So you try to find a relatively safe neighborhood to live in. A locale that's peaceful,
Can I have some?
Where you can find supplies, etc. Okay, so you translate this into modern terms. You figure out where would be a conducive place to live, given the what's possible. in where you are living, such that you're living a more retreat-like lifestyle. Staying in a hermitage like this, one should leave all cares behind and practice yoga, following the instructions given by one's teacher. And then these two verses about what's conducive to yoga and what isn't. One's yoga is destroyed by 6 things. Too much food, overeating, gluttony, okay? And anyone knows this, okay? Anyone who's actually tried to meditate or do a yoga practice after a big Italian meal, for example, you will find like why this made the list, okay? Working too much. Got it there, right there. Too much talking. And nowadays talking doesn't mean only like, with your vocal cords. Yeah. Too much texting, too much, I-emming, too much emailing and so forth. Not conducive to your yoga. Not adhering to morality or an excessive attachment to moral rules and regulations. The phrase is ambiguous. It could mean either one of those, so I threw them both in. Not adhering to morality, obviously, but this kind of excessive attachment to moral rules and regulations can also be a hindrance to your yoga. To always be like judging, yourself and others, morally. Hanging around with other people. And inconstancy means like, stop and start, practice. One's yoga will succeed because of 6 things. Cheerfulness, staying happy all the time. Resolution, constancy, sticking with it regularly. Knowledge of reality, which is what we'll talk about in tomorrow's 4th and final session. Getting unbusy through kind of understanding what's what. Understanding some wisdom. Faith means like some kind of conviction in what you're doing. And staying away from other people. Jana Sangha Parityaga. Staying away from groups of other people especially. Learning to be alone. Learning to be happy alone. So as a practical thing, towards the end here, 1 day off a week where you take a holiday. You rest, you hang out with your family, you go to the movies, nowadays, right? We mean that, but just rest, no work, and turn everything off. Okay, so that's one recommendation. I bet you not even 2 people in this room are going to try that. So, but I'll throw it out there. I didn't make this up, by the way. You can, if you need help, go online and Google digital detox. It's a whole movement. Okay, people are hip to this. So 1 day up, 1 weekend maybe, 1 weekend a month, where you close everything down and you just stay at home, quiet, alone, meditate, study, do some yoga, rest, sleep. Okay, and then maybe on a daily basis. We've also tried this for many years. Some time, especially good first thing in the morning. Just quiet. No talking, no turning things on, maybe for the first hour of your waking day, of just peace. Where you're quiet, don't speak, don't turn on the computer, don't turn on the cell phone, don't turn on the smartphone, and just learn, relearn, rediscover the beauty of silence and solitariness. Because we lost it. We really lost it. So that was a class on the importance of doing nothing. Not as a full-time occupation, but as a way to restore yourself. To
stop being a doing and start being a being.
So the exercise for this class is on the following page. Every day this week, choose one activity you usually do without paying much attention, brushing your teeth, washing the dishes, walking to the mailbox, and try to bring a sense of mindful presence and open awareness to that act. Bring some mindfulness into just your ordinary, daily activities. And then designate one day this week as your Sabbath, as your Shabbat, as your holy day. Take a day off from all work and all media, turn off the phone, etc., alone and quiet. So, give it a go. You don't know what you're missing until you rediscover it. Cindy and I, and several people in this room actually have experience in retreat, 4-week retreats, 6-week retreats, and so forth. And there's no substitution for that. For just kind of locking yourself up in a cottage or a cabin somewhere, all by yourself, just you and your own mind, for long periods of time. But I think it's unreasonable to think that most people can find the time to do that nowadays. And so this is a way, some of these advices are a way to integrate that experience or some version of that experience into your daily life, into your weekly, monthly, daily life kind of thing. And that is possible. It is possible to recover some silence and some solitude in our lives. So we have 15 or 20 minutes now for conversation, if there is any questions. There was a question from the box from last night. I got it. You want to do this one? This is kind of okay. No, you do it. This is kind of what you're right.
You read it before. No. I didn't read it yet.
This one was a question. I'll just read it, what I can make out of it. I am in the early stages of recovery from a lifelong addiction to various substances and lifestyle. You are enlightening me that busyness is also an addiction. Question, please. Number one. How is it possible for me to have a home spiritual meditation practice? Any suggestions, please? I'm not sure what that has to do with addiction, but the best way to start some kind of spiritual practice is to follow the advice that we talked about in the afternoon class. Make a commitment and keep it. Don't say you're going to do stuff and then don't do it. So the commitment that you can make, especially at first, is to do something little every day. But every day. So like 15 minutes of meditation every day, but every day. Or 15 minutes of study of a sacred text, but every day. And keep that commitment, So it's important for us to, in a spiritual life, to set reachable goals, okay? And then when we get accustomed to reaching reachable goals, then to set bigger ones, little by little by little, right? Like that. Then the next part of the question, due to something and lifelong running, I have no clue what my passion is. This is Cindy's question. So I don't know where to focus. So how would you tell people, how to try to find out what their passion is?
Yeah, well, we'll go back to, finding your Dharma, right? Your own personal passion. You can think about the things that you enjoy doing, but that you're also good at. To make it meaningful, you can also think about whether you think that it's worth doing, whether it's something that serves the world in a way that would make your life meaningful. Also, whether it's something that you can actually live on. A lot of the time our passion is like, stamp collecting or something. You're not going to make a career out of it, so you also work out, other ways that you can make a living.
Or staying in 5-star hotels. I have a passion for that.
Right. But those are clues, for you to find out what your passion is. Those are clues So you recognize what it is that you do in your life that helps you feel like in the zone, in the flow, where you've lost yourself into something greater, you know. And for people that have been in addiction, well, that's been drugs for you in the past, you know, or that's been whatever. And as I said, we're all addicted to something, you know. But when you know that your passion has been something that has not benefited yourself and others, then I think that's where the spiritual part of the Dharma comes in too. You recognize your responsibilities, your Kula Dharma. You recognize your responsibilities to the people in your life, your community. You know, that's not serving. Your addiction, when it's to something that's not of benefit, it's not serving the community, it's not serving the family. You know, you might be spending all your money. One of my friends has been deep into an addiction, and he spent all of the money from the family. You know, so that's not serving your Dharma well, right? And then the other Dharma is your Sanatana Dharma, which we argued could be your sort of most important goal. Recognizing that Buddha nature, recognizing your true nature of interconnection with the universe, of love. So your Sanatana Dharma is sort of like an overriding intention of really dedicating your life here on earth, your precious life, your very limited amount of thoughts you have per day, your very limited amount of energy that you have per day, to recognize what it is that you're doing here on earth. And actually, you know, for those that have been addicted to substances, well, the way that you feel when it's been a good high or whatever, that is actually pointing you to who you really are. That's why you want to keep taking the drugs, because it makes you lose yourself. It makes you lose your stress-based body system, and you feel good for a while, you know. That's why we are addicted to it, because we are actually, it is your Buddha nature calling to you home again, to say, look at how blissful it feels when you are not obsessed with the self, when the small self is dissolved and you become part of a greater whole. So that is a clue, but you see that the results of doing it in that way are not of benefit, right? So actually that, you can make this into a beautiful story, your addiction. That addiction to that substance led me to the Dharma, and now I have that without the substance, you know. That's the promise of the Dharma, actually. It's the quick fix that you might have been addicted to, you know, on a surface level, but what you're really addicted to is losing yourself in bliss. Well, that's what the Dharma promises through practice. Practice is going to be more stable. Practice is not going to give you a bad trip that makes you lose your mind, usually, if you do it well. So, does that make sense? You know, all of these things, mostly you could say that your passions actually show you that Sanatana Dharma is what you've always wanted. Your passions show you how it feels to lose yourself in something that you love and something that you're good at, when you're in the flow, when you're in the zone. Right? That's what our hobbies do. That's what our passions help us do. And so actually all of those activities show us what we really, really want. The first desire, you think that you're going to be able to fulfill that desire and then you'll be happy. But actually all of those desires show you what it is that you truly desire, which is to be beyond desire. That's Sanatana Dharma. Being beyond desire, because you know that you are everything, you have everything already actually. We've always had everything that we need. From Sanatana Dharma point of view, you have everything. You are everything. You don't need anything. You know, desire for those smaller passions in life dissolves in the face of your true Dharma, which is recognizing that you are everything already, have everything already, you know. So they go together. But from a relative point of view, from a day-to-day life point of view, it's good to be able to go out into the world and express your gifts. That's the way, you know, not getting into the sort of like more universal aspect of life, but the day-to-day realities of life. It's nice to be able to work with each other, to communicate with each other in a way where you're expressing your gifts, you're expressing your talents, you're not continually dampening yourself. Even though this beautiful passion wants to come out, you're not continually saying, oh, it's stupid, it's embarrassing, I'm not good at it. You're willing to do your Dharma in that way that we were saying, where do your own Dharma imperfectly. Go out and try the circus training. Go out and try all of these things that you have the passion for. Like my mum just started tap dancing lessons. She's in her 70s, you know. When my dad retired, in his 70s, he started a band. That was his passion his whole life, you know, started a band. So do it now. Do it now. Again, when you see the regrets of dying people, they regret not living their passion. They regret living the life that other people wanted them to live, you know. So, yeah. It's nicer, I think, to be existing in this world in relationship with each other, being the best person that you can be. We were all born, you know, all the causes and conditions since beginningless time brought you as you. Now, there's no one like you in that sense. No one. No one can ever express you but you. So that's your duty too. All the causes and conditions, like a miracle. Since beginningless time, the dominoes have fallen, and that's who you are in this very moment. And that's your dharma to express that, right? Because no one else can express that. That's who you are, you know. And so be you. We'll talk about not being you tomorrow, and they go together. They go together. But from this point of view, be yourself. You know? There's no one else can be you, so be yourself.
Someone once asked us, you know, how will I know that I have a good job? You know, and there's a number of young people here who are thinking about their professional lives and so forth. And Cindy mentioned it in passing in what you just said. But we sort of like came up with 3 criteria for what makes for a good job. Number 1, you're good at it. You have some talent for it. And number 2, you like it. Some people are very good at things that they don't like doing. And some people like doing things that they're not really good at. So when those 2 things come together, that's really good. 2 out of 3 are there.